Okay, hello everybody. My name is Ricardo and I'll be presenting my design thesis. My research question is, here we go. How can Montenegro's Centenario Park in Brazil be regenerated and reinvigorated as a showground through the application of Brazilian Modernist principles? I'll start off with a bit of site background. Here, a location diagram. So we zoom into Brazil, then zoom into the southernmost state of Brazil called Rio Grande do Sul. Then we zoom into the city of Montenegro, and finally zoom into Centenario Park. Centenario means centenary, and that's because the park was founded on the city's 100th birthday in 1973. The current problem being addressed in this thesis is the current rundown condition of the site. Because of neglect and vandalism over recent decades, the quality of the spaces and the buildings have declined drastically, also with the shutting down of facilities. And this is something that I witnessed as well living in the city when I was younger. The past experience of the site, however, is very different. It used to be a lively showground for cultural, recreational, and sports events of the region, a place of collective memory for people. So this study looks at bringing back some of this life to the current dilapidated site. Here's an existing site program isometric drawing, and I'll just bring your attention to a few key items here. Number 1 is the main entrance to the site on the bottom left. Number 7 and 8 are the restaurant and the brutalist sports gym building called Domingão, respectively. They were built in 1973 and opened with the park. Number 11 is a postmodern blue sports gym building that was introduced in or inaugurated in 1991. And finally, numbers 12 and 13 encompass a cultural gaucho area of the site that is also from 1991. We can see aspects of the city's culture and identity reflected in Centenario Park. For example, on the left, we can see a German-themed party happening in one of the park's buildings. In the middle, we can see the local gaucho culture in one of the rodeo spaces here. And gaucho is a term in reference to the cowboys or horsemen of South America. And on the right, we can see a sign that reads City of the Arts, and that's placed in Centenario Park, acknowledging one of the city's titles in the region. Between the years of 1973 and 2019, there have been considerable developments both within the site area as well as the surrounding city. And there's a logo that's associated with Centenario Park that you can see here, and it's something that's been largely forgotten over the course of time and something that I'd like to reinstate as part of the proposal. Also worth mentioning is that the two main buildings of the site, which are the Domingão and the Azulão that you see there, the sports gym buildings, they are named after important local figures of the region's sports scene. I then conducted some mapping exercises here on the site plan, mapping zones, mapping events at the park to understand how people occupy the spaces, mapping key moments as we come into the site and traverse that central road of the park, mapping of building condition, water runoff and circulation, some site section elevations and diagrams that are taken through the length of the park. And then here a site isometric and section annotations on initial observations, as well as additional drawings. And finally, this all culminated in the site feasibility study that we see here that again helps to articulate the context of the site. Entering the methodology portion of the report of the study, the first thing I did was come up with a set of design rules to help inform where and how to intervene the park site. And that's because it is a very big, it has a very big area of 120,000 meters squared, and there's a lot happening on the site. So these rules outline that beyond the revitalization of the existing heritage structures, it also looks largely at the creation of outdoor spaces that can supplement the cultural and functional uses of Centenario Park, because there hasn't been noticeable development of these areas on the site. And these spaces are to embody an architectural ideology that is Brazilian modernism. Now, during the 20th century was a time where European principles, design principles, predominated at a national level, and a time where Brazilian architects were looking for ways to distinguish their buildings from those of Europe. And in this process, trying to find a uniquely architectural style that's referential of Brazil. The following case studies that I'll show you are from architects, Brazilian architects rather, that align themselves to varying extents with this architectural ideology in their search for an authentic design style. And also, I believe that each one had a takeaway or a key lesson that could be reinterpreted in the context of Centenario Park. The first one is Lina Bobardi's SES Pompeia in the city of São Paulo. It is a leisure center that consists of a revitalized heritage condition of the site, as well as the implementation of a surrounding environment to accommodate the new social program. And jointly, they form this leisure precinct in the city. There's a strong similarity that is shared between Centenario Park and SES Pompeia, and that is the presence of a thoroughfare that runs by an old condition to arrive at the new condition. However, the differences between the two, I think, are made evident in these photographs here, how the SES Pompeia thoroughfare is well cherished by the people, where Centenario Park only offers quite a bland and dominating road on the site. I then looked at this precedent that is Ibirapuera Park by architect Oscar Niemeyer, where he uses a sensual concrete canopy to connect the different buildings of the site, and I started questioning whether a similar approach would be appropriate to Centenario Park, whether the introduction of a distinctly Brazilian architectural quality to be shared between the very different buildings of the site could help bring some level of harmony to them. I then looked at this precedent here from Roberto Burle Marx, that is the Flamengo Landfill Park. Now, Burle Marx is a landscape architect, and here he is designing a landscape to complement a brutalist structure of this project. And I also looked at another example from Burle Marx within the same project, except for a more open area, and how his landscape treatment is different. In regards to the creation of a large-scale outdoor performance space, I looked at this precedent from Fábio Penteado called the Center for Cultural Conviviality in Campinas. And it is essentially a set of grandstands that configure a large-scale outdoor stage. And also in regards to public spaces, looking at this precedent from Sérgio Bernardes called the Paraíba Cultural Space, the use of a canopy that creates this sheltered open plan space that can be used as the community wishes. And here the sixth and final case study is Louis Bergen, who is a Mexican architect, but his work with equestrian culture could be beneficial in a gaucho context, I thought. And so this is one of his stables in Mexico City. The design brief has the following new spaces: an outdoor dining area by the lake, a large outdoor performance space, a market area, and a stable. In the document, I go into a lot more detail in relation to the design brief, both in terms of function and aspirations, but unfortunately I can't cover the entirety of it in this presentation. The same I'll say for the design development of the project, because there's a lot there. But I will bring your attention to a few steps along the way that I thought were important, and this would be iteration number 7 that you see here. Now, at this point in time, these new outdoor spaces were beginning to emerge. However, they felt very bland and generic, and they didn't really capture the boldness or ambition of Brazilian architecture, and so it just felt like a very safe proposal. For a few weeks later, for iteration 10, I revisit these spaces and try to infuse more of this Brazilian modernist quality in them with reference to the case studies analyzed. And the outcome were these structures that really looked like Oscar Niemeyer and Burle Marx project. It didn't really factor in ideas from any of the other architects I was studying. And at the same time, these felt like brand new structures on site that had little acknowledgement of the existing and very unique condition of the buildings or the natural features of Centenario Park. So it just didn't feel right for an architecture or a meaningful architectural proposal. And then for the final design, I tried to amalgamate many of these theories and ideas into one proposal that is more sensible and connected to the site. Here's a sequential diagram of the key macro design decisions made on the site. Here are some experiential collages of the intended uses for each new space being introduced. Some isometric drawings where we can see the existing site and how these architectural interventions are inserted into Centenario Park. A plan here where we can see how the new spaces relate back to the existing condition that is shown in the white infills, and also how these new spaces, they begin to reclaim that central asphalt road to transform the park into a more pedestrian-oriented site, which is ideal for visitors. Another plan taken from higher up, and some section cuts. And then here is the final dining area developed. We can see here some lessons taken from Burle Marx in the creation of a more orthogonal landscape that is complementary to a brutalist condition, as we had identified in one of the studies. And then the use of concrete portal frames to carry the roof loads over this dining area. And this structure is resembling the structure of the Domingão sports gym building that we see here as well. And that way it establishes a dialogue between the two using the same type of structural system. There's also a statue here that you can see that's in honor of Domingos dos Santos, one of the local figures that I mentioned earlier in the presentation. With the new large-scale outdoor performance space, I think this came to be the most successful space developed in the study, and that is because it employs the ideas from Fábio Penchado and Sérgio Bernardes, but at the same time it mediates the architectural styles of the two sports gym buildings, which are very, very different. And it takes not only construction techniques from both, but also visual cues. These new grandstands, they fold and are sculpted in the same way as the Azulão sports gym building, which you see here in this render as well. It's the blue structure. And also the space frame of this superstructure sheltering canopy alludes to this exposed skeletal system of the existing building as well. And in that way, it establishes a link between the new condition and the old condition in terms of architectural language. And here we are bringing back that graphic that is the 100-year logo of Centenario Park at the entrance to this area. The underside of these grandstands can be used for markets, exhibitions, and other activities as well. It is quite a flexible space. And in this area, we can also see how the grandstands interact with existing conditions of the site. So these concrete portal frames here, they fold and then they insert themselves into the lake, which is there is an interaction with the natural condition of the site. And also through cutout voids on these forms, we can visually connect the people at the central stage that we can see here to the people that are behind or under these grandstands. And then finally here is the stable design that incorporates some ideas from Louis Berrigan. It looks at extending the existing walls from the barn buildings on site and then returning them or redirecting people back towards the lake and the other area beyond that you can catch a glimpse of in the background. Also forming a horse courtyard for the horses in between the two rodeo spaces. And then here are the final A0 panels you can see, and how even though we're taking ideas from various architects, there is still a consistency in the architectural language that helps tie it all together. And that's it. Thank you.